Good morning. I still feel a bit tired after yesterday, but what a day. The title I've chosen for today's talk is Oh, what an open-hearted day for me. In my entire life, I do not remember a day that my heart was as wide open as it was yesterday. I had the amazing opportunity to lecture in 3 college classes on the spirituality of right now. And then in the evening, 22 people gathered in my home for the love line with Margie. I felt so much love, and it was absolutely amazing. Something else, too, was the dream I had when I went back to bed after doing yesterday's video. I was watching TV, and the newscasters were excited as they showed live pictures of lights in the sky lining up from horizon to horizon, beaming light upon the earth. Yes, for me it was a day of light, love, laughter, and a celebration of life. Let me start with where I ended up about the lights in the sky. After I finished the video yesterday, as I said, I went back to try to get another hour or 2 of sleep, which I accomplished, about a little less than 2 hours. But when I woke up very cognizant of the dream that I was in just before I woke up. And I don't watch television, so it's even strange that I'd be watching anything on television. But that's how the dream was. I was watching television and watching the newscasters as they were showing this live feed. First it was just a short line. Oh, I don't know how many lights were in the sky. It was just like a line of lights in the sky. But lights kept coming in from each end and adding. Like, there would be maybe a few come in on this end and a few more on this end, and it was going until it was all across the whole sky. And as I meditated on that this morning, it was almost like I was being shown that the lights were lining up all across around the entire world. And so wherever you looked, you were seeing the lights from horizon to horizon. And it was being shown on mainstream media, which is the point that I think of seeing it on television and hearing the newscasters with excitement in their voices about all of these lights coming in the sky. But I had the sense that it was just beaming down light. Our angelic extraterrestrial friends were just beaming down the light upon planet Earth for the awakening to even accelerate further. I mean, that's the sense that I had from that dream. Some of it I had immediately yesterday, and some of it I've got today as I was meditating on yesterday's dream. I didn't have much time for meditation yesterday because it was an extremely busy day for me, extremely busy. And before the meeting last night, I mean, I was absolutely exhausted. But by the end of the meeting, I was once again exhilarated, filled with energy, and I almost didn't want people to go home, and people lingered for a good while after the meeting ended. But what a day! I mean, in the college, initially when he introduced me, he says, "Ron, for lack of a better term, is going to be talking about New Age spirituality." But I'd already been given the thing because I knew he was going to introduce that, because that's what he always calls it, New Age spirituality. But I also know from talking to him that a good number of people in his classes are evangelical, fundamentalist, mainstream Protestant Christianity, or other types of Christianity, I'm sure too, but the ones that really cling to their religion are the fundamentalists, especially the Bible believers, and certainly in the first class especially, there was a lot of that, trying to defend hell and trying to defend the devil. And what do I do about Charles Manson and Adolf Hitler and stuff like that, and raising that kinds of questions on making excuses, I guess, for a punishing God. But I was also very, very excited in the first class, and Dennis, the professor, Dr. Tishkin, said, "Can you tone it down a little bit for the next class?" Um, but I was just so excited, and what I was sharing was my story of how I went from being a fundamentalist Christian to open up to discovering what's the spirituality of now is all about. It's right now. It's happening right now. God didn't stop talking and stop communicating with people when the Bible was finished. And there's so many churches, and the churches that I grew up in, and I made that abundantly clear to people that this is how I was raised. I was raised in a family of ministers and missionaries and people that were very active in the church. And my brother, I shared in at least one of the three classes how my brother was a Christian martyr, killed in Colombia back in when he was only 42 years old or something like that. But I shared bits and pieces of my story. No two of the lectures were identical, but in every one of them I started with the story of how I was told when I was about 18 years old by my parents that they had given me to God before I was born, that they had made a deal with God and given me to God, and that all of my life through growing up, I was reading the Bible through from cover to cover, starting in 1962 when I was only 16 years old, and I continued that practice pretty much into my 20s, maybe even into my early 30s. I'm not sure when I actually stopped reading the Bible through every year, but many were the times that I would read the Bible through from cover to cover and memorize scriptures and stuff like that. And I have a lot of scriptures that come to me and they're at my command. And so when I'm communicating with especially people that have the background that I knew that some of these kids had, and actually some of them weren't kids. There were some quite older adults in the classroom as well. In each classroom, I think there were some people that were not 18, 20-year-olds. They were maybe 40s, 50-year-olds in some cases. But it was just so exciting for me to be able to share my spiritual odyssey, my journey with these kids. And yes, as I looked over the classroom and I make eye contact with people, and I can sense when their heart is opening, I can sense their countenance I can see their countenance and see when it's landing, oh yeah, and they're nodding. Yeah, I get it. And one of the students wrote to me afterwards and actually befriended me on Facebook and said, "I really appreciate what you're doing," which made me feel really good. I don't remember exactly how she worded it, but if different ones came up to me after the classes and obviously showed appreciation, although I was surprised that some of the ones that I seemed to be connecting with didn't come up to me afterwards in some of the classes. That sort of surprised me, but then again, it's peer pressure. They don't want to make it look in front of their other students like they're excited, but I could see the excitement on some of their faces, and knew in my heart that I was connecting with their heart and letting them know that there's always unconditional love. And since it's a world religions class that I was talking in, I was connecting the dots between the religions and what is the central theme in all of the world religions. What is it? And they would describe it sometimes in sentences when I'd ask, and I'd say, well, give me one word that encapsulates that. And without an exception, everybody realized the word is love. Love is the central theme. And my religion is love. It's not Christianity or Judaism or Buddhism or Hinduism or Islam or any of the other major world religions. My religion is love, and love is the religion of everybody. We've got to get to that place because that's where spirituality is. Religion binds us to ideas and dogmas and doctrines and things that separate us from each other. And I pointed out that here in the United States, and I'm sure it's true in Europe, and I'm sure it's true in other parts of the world, a lot of the media focuses on Islamic terrorists, and I pointed out that Islam is a religion of peace. Yeah, are there Islamic terrorists? Well, I don't think they're very Islamic if they're terrorists, because that's not what the religion is about. And there are terrorist Christians, but that's not what Christianity is about. Every religion has its fanatics. Every religion has its people that are on the extremes. And that's where the focus of attention is. But the vast majority of Christians, the vast majority of Muslims, the vast majority of Jews, the vast majority of Hindus and Buddhists, and even atheists are peace-loving people, pagans, Native Americans, people that don't have a spirituality that's tied to a particular religion, that they just understand that life is connected to everything else. And I pointed out again, the omnipresence and the omniscience and the omnipotence of God. And if God is omnipresent, if God is everywhere present, how can you be separate from a God that's everywhere? Which blasts through the ideas that we've been brainwashed with, that we're separate, and that there's only a certain thing that we've got to believe. Certain things and certain practices make us good people, and we've got to get beyond that, folks. And we are getting beyond it. We are getting beyond it. Last night, as we gathered for the Love Line, when the first couple of people came here, actually I think the third person that showed up was Birgit, and she said, "You're going to need to put more chairs out." The most we'd ever had for a Love Line before is 18. And so we exceeded that by 4, and there were people that had never been to a Love Line before, never been, of course, to my house before. There were some people that hadn't been to my house in a long time. It was just an amazing evening that there was just so much love, so much love. And that's what I feel was my whole day. Yes, it was tiring. I mean, the first lecture in the first class, I was so excited and exuberant. That's why he said, "Can you tone it down a little bit?" Because when I get excited, it comes out a little bit louder. And I needed to talk in a more subdued tone. And he asked me if I could do that, and I actually was able to do that. But it seemed like with each class, my heart opened more. I mean, that's the sense that I had. My heart opened more, and by the time the Love Line happened, my heart was wide open. And as I faced off with each of the other people in the Love Line, I mean, all I could sense was that there was just no separation. I mean, I was just looking at another aspect of God, another aspect of a child of God, as I am. And that's what I was seeing in each man and each woman that stood before me. And it was just exciting, just exciting. Folks, the irony of this is that in yesterday's meditation, before I did my video, I was saying, "God, why am I not feeling anything?" And I mentioned that to Margie last night after the meeting was all over, when it was just the two of us left talking. And she said, "Well, Ron, you've been doing all this legal work, and it's really hard to feel connected and to feel uplifted when you're involved in controversy. And when you're doing legal work, it's controversial because you've got people that don't understand it, aren't seeing, and you're trying to convince somebody that they've got to see it your way." And that's what the law thing is all about, the court cases. And it doesn't matter whether I'm doing it for me or whether I'm helping a friend. I get bogged down in that. So I mean, it made perfect sense what Margie said, why I haven't been feeling as connected, because I have been doing a lot of the legal research, and it's a game I wish I could get away from. And I wish so much that the awakening would happen, that the attorneys and the judges and the politicians and the bankers and everybody else would just wake up and receive this love and this light and this laughter. Yes, I was doing laughter. I shared how I came to recognize that everything is alive and responds to to gratefulness, and responds to being thanked, and responds to love, that we can love even our quote inanimate objects, and how my car was repaired by laughter. I even sang "Oh Lord, it's hard to be humble" in 2 out of the 3 classes. The third one I did not sing it in, but I actually sang a whole verse or a whole chorus of "Oh Lord, it's hard to be humble," because that was the song that Bruce Morgan, my mentor back in 1982, it probably was, in the spring probably of 1982, before I had even moved to Florida. I went to hear Bruce in New York City, and here's this minister who was the vice president of the Fundamentalist Churches of America and the uh, president of the Bible Institute of New England, coming out in white pants and a red shirt with flowers on it, and singing "Oh Lord, it's hard to be humble," teaching us that whole song. And he sang the song also when he came out on the stage, but the message that day was getting out of your head and into your heart. And folks, that's what this whole New Age spirituality, or the spirituality of right now, is all about. It's not about religion. It's so far beyond religion, as light is superior to darkness, in the respect that you can see with light, and the lights are coming on across the sky and around the globe. The lights are coming on, and we're being beamed down a tremendous amount of grace. It's all about amazing grace. And in all of the classes, I also shared the story of Rwanda, how after the massacre, the people that were left actually made peace and forgave the people that were the murderers, even sometimes of their entire family, and it was only one person left alive out of an entire family of people. And they had the amazing grace to experience, or to show forgiveness to those that had done these terrible, terrible deeds. And this is what spirituality is all about. It's not about holding grudges. It's about getting beyond. It's about forgiveness. I said in one of the classes that being unforgiving is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Anyway, I'm still excited, but I'm also still very, very tired, and I have another long day, and I have more legal stuff that I have to do for myself, and preparing more legal paperwork that has to be done at the latest by next Monday or Tuesday at the very latest. But anyway, what a day. Thank you for listening. I love you all. I feel like I'm able to love the whole world. I so appreciate you. Have a wonderful day. Namaste.